My name is Jeff Williams. I'm the National Distribution Sales Manager for IKO. I'll be discussing a brief overview of linear bearings and guides today. So linear motion products come in a variety of forms. The primary purpose is to allow for linear motion with smooth, repeatable, precise motion while reducing overall friction. Essentially, on this slide, we'll walk through the quadrants. In the upper left quadrant, you see a round shaft ball bushing pillow block that's oftentimes utilized in vertical applications. Moving to the right is a linear guide with profile rail that is very popular when high accuracy and loads are required. You can actually utilize, for the rolling element, you can use a ball bearing or a roller bearing. On the lower level, on the left quadrant, would be a low profile linear rail. And that would be used when space is a consideration. So oftentimes you will use, the rails will be two rails run in parallel to distribute the load. But if space does not allow, then you would be able to use the low profile rail, which has a wider rail to distribute the load. And also the distance from the baseline to the top of the housing is less. So this would be very helpful in those applications. Moving to the image in the middle of the bottom row is a round shaft type with rail, bearing, and housing displayed. What's different about this one than on the upper left quadrant would be that the shaft is supported throughout the length of the apparatus. And the last quadrant on the lower right would be a profile rail, but this would be using rolling elements that are roller bearings. And you would utilize these in applications where you need a high degree of accuracy, you have high loads, maybe some applications like CNC machining or semiconductor manufacturing. Another important aspect of these units are that they're going to be more expensive, so anywhere up to 30% more expensive than their traditional ball bearing offering. So as we discussed, linear guides are used to handle the load in the application to assure alignment in a linear motion. Linear guides come in a variety of styles and materials, and there's multiple specifications that you need to consider when you're looking at an application. Several of our customers are going to utilize linear bearings and guides, and each one may have a unique aspect that needs to be addressed as you go through and specifying which linear guide style is best for them. And again, the nice part about the linear guides and bearings is that they're found in a multitude of industries. So you'll find them in machine tools, automation, automotive, medical, semiconductor manufacturing, 3D printing, and they can be adjusted to address high temperature or high contamination environments, as well as just general industrial applications. And each manufacturer, several manufacturers, will have an interchangeable series, so with different levels of accuracy and preload. Now, it's important that if you're going to move from one manufacturer of linear bearings to another, then you really need to pay attention to some of the critical components or critical dimensions. And that would be like your total height, the width of the slide unit, the width of the rail, the hole spacing, and the hole sizes. That would be very important if you're going to look to change from one manufacturer to another. Additionally, several manufacturers offer maintenance-free products along with a variety of configurations for contamination prevention. So in this, regarding the maintenance-free aspect of it, so a manufacturer actually has a unit where the rolling elements are actually lubricated inside the carriage. So there's a tube inside the carriage, and as the rolling elements go through that tube, they're actually receive lubrication, and that is a way to achieve the maintenance-free operation. Other manufacturers may choose to add on a plate, so an external plate on the carriage with lubrication. That lubrication would be applied to the rail, and you would achieve maintenance-free operation that way. So there's different ways to achieve the maintenance-free aspect of it. Normally, if you're lubricating the units, it's about 3 to 6 months. The maintenance folks have to lube. But if you use these maintenance-free options, and again, it depends on the manufacturer, but you could have in excess of 2 years, 2 to 3 years, with no maintenance of adding lubrication. And then regarding the contamination prevention, there's a few ways that you can actually address that as well, because that significantly impacts the life of the unit. So you can use scrapers, you can do double end seals, you can do bellows, sea wipers, rail covers and caps. And then lastly, you always have the option if you want to specify a stainless steel components. So that would help in a corrosive environment, as well as possibly some special coatings to prolong the life of the unit. So essentially here you have the round rail and profile rail. So on the left, you have the precision and ground rail with the linear bearings and the housings. And on the right, you have extruded rail with hardened raceways that the carriage would actually ride on the hardened and ground raceways. And here, so on the left-hand side, you'll have a slide bushing that does not have a rolling element. So by definition, it utilizes sliding friction as opposed to the other units which utilize rolling friction. These units are typically less expensive, and they're for a low speed and low load applications. On the right, you actually have the linear way, which utilizes the track and the carriage, and it reduces friction by the rolling elements. And in this example, would be the ball bearings. So you have the railway, and then you have the casing or carriage, which would include the end plate, the C loop. So this is the example we mentioned earlier of the maintenance-free, where the rolling elements actually pass through a tube to receive lubrication. So that aspect is addressed right within the actual carriage unit itself. Then you have a ball retaining band, an oil hole. So if you needed at some point in the life of the unit, if you needed to add oil, and then the track rail. So thanks for your time, and I hope that you enjoyed the overview. More detailed information can be found on linear bearings and guides through the Certified Bearing Specialist training modules. So thanks again for your attention.